Why does none of this bother me? Could it be this spacious comfy car?
The spacious new Volkswagen Atlas. It does life beautifully.
What are you hammering?
Brock's candy canes.
Candy canes?
Yeah, I'm turning Brock's famous candy canes into my famous holiday peppermint bark.
With a hammer?
Yeah, I crush up candy canes, spread them on the sheet pan, pour melted white chocolate over them, and refrigerate.
I see.
Yeah, why are you holding a wreath?
Well, I was going to hang it.
But you need the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Brock's. Make moments sweeter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Hello and welcome to Unequal Sequel. I am Dave and I'm one of your hosts of this very podcast.
And I'm Rich and I'm the other host of this podcast. Think of me as Harry and Dave as Lloyd. I'm dumb, but he's definitely dumber.
Very good. The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel.
And of course, we often drift off and talk about some other stuff. Sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's just whatever comes out of our mouths, really.
And on today's episode, we are joined by comedian, presenter, podcaster and actor Seann Walsh.
For those of you that don't know, Seann has a real passion for movies. He used to do a little short segment on a radio show all about movies, and he especially loves Ghostbusters. It's fair to say that me and Dave both really enjoyed doing this episode.
It was fun. We were very excited to sit down with Seann and chat all things sequels with him.
And these are Seann Walsh's Unequal Sequels. Enjoy!
Do you remember the first sequel you went and watched by any chance? Or the first sequel you got excited about?
Well, I'll tell you what, the first sequel that I would have watched is part of my favourite franchise and probably, you know, one of my favourite films would be Ghostbusters 2.
Wicked.
So it would have been 4. And then went on to have the double VHS of Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2 and would wake up and watch that on repeat until I went to sleep. And that's basically, that was my childhood.
I think I had the same video, yeah.
And I think in
I had
terms
the same
of...
video too.
Yeah. Did you have the one where there was a black and white Batman in the middle?
Oh, no, I didn't have that one.
There was a it was a VHS and it was just one tape. It wasn't two tapes, it was one tape. They managed to shove all of the film, both films onto one tape.
That's a long tape.
And and in the middle was an episode of the before the 60s Batman.
Wow.
And very random. But, and it also had the trailers for Karate Kid Part 3 and a film called The Bear Part 2. Like, I didn't know there was a Bear 1, but it must have done quite well. It got a sequel.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But in terms of looking forward to a sequel, it would probably be, off the top of my head, it would be The Lost World Jurassic Park, because it had, this was all about the teaser trailer. And we don't really live in we live in a time now where, because of the internet, we know the film's coming. We know the film is coming perhaps even years before we see that teaser trailer. But I was a kid, wasn't particularly huge subscriber of film magazines or anything. I think I would get them occasionally. But you are a child sitting in a cinema, there to see another film. Suddenly there's lightning, and then bang, T-Rex's footprint in the mud. This is the first time you're finding out there's going to be a sequel to Jurassic Park. It's mind-blowing, and I wish it was... I don't know how you could, how they could keep that a secret anymore, but I wish it was still like that, because we'll never feel that. Although, in saying that, they managed somehow to keep the Jason Reitman Ghostbusters under wraps, I think, because I had no idea until that teaser came out. So yeah, I was pretty lucky.
There were always rumours about Ghostbusters 3, and there was always a kind of Bill Murray's not going to do it, and someone's not going to do it, and nobody wants to do it, and then that went on for years and years and years, didn't it? And then, but yeah, suddenly that teaser trailer hit, and you're like, hang on, this is happening.
Yes.
This is a thing.
I cried. I'll be honest. Yeah, goosebumps,
Fantastic.
tears. It's all I've fantasized about since number 2, since I was 4 years of age.
Wow.
So
I'm with
very
you.
happy.
I absolutely love Ghostbusters 2.
Yes.
I think Ghostbusters. I almost prefer Ghostbusters 2 to Ghostbusters the original.
This is a safe place, Sean. We are.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue. I completely understand that. It was I preferred number 2 for most of my life, but I think I've come round to preferring 1. But I love 2. I don't know what anyone's problem with it is. It's brilliant.
I think it's great. Do you
What
know
is
the
people's problems
story
with it?
behind how they got Bill Murray to do it? They completely lied to him, essentially. So Ivan Reitman pitched him a completely different script, and he turned up to film it, and it turned out to be Ghostbusters 2, and he's like, "Hang on a minute."
Yes.
and then he basically went, "Oh, well, I'm here. I may as well do it."
I don't really know what anyone's problem with it is. I think the only silly thing, although I mean, there's a few silly things, but you would expect perhaps if the Ghostbusters are in court, you might expect someone to just, if they're saying there's a river of slime, you might get someone to just pop their head down and go, "No, they're right. There is a river of slime."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only bit that really annoys me about Ghostbusters 2 is the painting at the end. I still don't understand how that painting exists. That world. I can't get my head around. Even like as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, I was like, how did that get there? I don't understand the magic and the
logic.
The behind
just
it.
Accept it, Dave.
I can buy everything else. I can buy the Titanic coming back and the Coke's coming alive and other goes. The picture, that was too much for me. But apart from that, love it. I can watch it a lot, to be honest. 1 and 2.
The Statue of Liberty coming to life because they filled it with like good vibes slime. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I think
such a great concept.
We need some of that mood slime now. We're with the current state the planet is in. We need the Ghostbusters to come back, play higher and higher to some pink slime, and hose down a lot of the population of this planet.
I'd love that.
That would be amazing.
Love that. So Ghostbusters 2 is not your favorite ever sequel, right? So I guess it's up there somewhere.
It's up there, but I didn't just want to. Otherwise, we're just going to bang on about Ghostbusters for the whole of this episode. So,
but what is your favorite ever sequel? What is number 1?
I think I'm guessing this would be a lot of people's, and it's not a particularly original choice, but it's The Dark Knight.
Brilliant choice.
And
so good.
I think a lot rides on. Obviously, it's an incredible film, but I think this choice rides on the fact that I saw this at the BFI, the Waterloo IMAX, which was my first experience of IMAX. Now, Nolan didn't shoot all of Dark Knight in IMAX, but he did shoot the opening, the sort of prologue. So the opening shot that you get, which is that sort of helicopter shot, zooming in on that, tracking in on that building, is in IMAX. And I remember that the entire audience was sold out. And this feels like it's something that would happen in an American screening, but the entire audience gasped because the resolution. We'd never seen anything like this, and suddenly we were flying through Gotham. Bang! The sound, the IMAX sound, the glass shatters. You knew immediately that you were about to, go on a journey that you hadn't been on before. And I think that we take it for granted that the impact of that film had. It was absolutely mind-blowing. You're going to start a film. How are we going to start it? A heist, job, a bank robbery. And in that, we are going to climax with introducing Heath Ledger's Joker. This is really why it's not why we're here. We're here to see Batman, but it's all about the Joker. And bang, he rips off that mask and delivers that line. And it's just, wow. Is there a better, in terms of opening scenes? I think you're hard pushed to find a better opening scene to a film.
I was like you. That was my first IMAX screen.
Wow.
Viewing. So like you walk in. I've never been in a room like it. The screen's just so big, and the sound, like you said, I think it might be some rain, Sean, but it was amazing. I've never had that experience again, and I've taken for granted that, especially that side of the screen. I took my dad to go see Dunkirk a couple of years ago, and he had the same kind of experience. He couldn't get over how big that screen, how magical that makes that film. But what a film. And what an opening with the music, with the Joker.
My God. Just I've got goosebumps. Just it all, in a sense, you know, like he knows how to when he's telling a story, he really knows how to tell it to a point, so that it's all building up to a point. You know, you know, you mentioned Dunkirk. Dunkirk is a 90-minute film that is essentially all building up to the point that Tom Hardy shoots down that plane in silence. There's no engine, and you see that plane in smoke go down behind Kenneth Branagh's head. The whole film is a 90-minute sort of masterpiece that builds up to that point. This is a smaller version. It's just all building up to this point, but he's going to bend down, pull off that mask and say, whatever doesn't kill you, something makes you stranger. And then bang, Hans Zimmer kicks in, and people were laughing. And they were laughing because they were giddy. Yeah. They were giddy at what we expected it to be good. No one expected it to be that good.
So this was this one of the first films on IMAX? Because I read a story about there being 4 IMAX cameras in the world in existence when this was filmed, and during that heist, Christopher Nolan destroyed one of them. So after that film, there were only 3 left.
Sounds possible.
Great.
So I don't know if it was the first one that came out in IMAX in that kind of...
I do remember that they played that sequence before Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol at IMAX. So a lot of people went to see Mission Impossible just to see that opening in the IMAX. I didn't, because I didn't want to spoil it for me. There were some other... Did you?
Oh, no. I didn't do that. But I did go to, unfortunately, I can't remember what was on, but I did go to see whatever it is that was on, so I could see the prologue to The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, what was on that one?
Can you remember what film that was on?
No, I'm trying to think. It could have been a Star Trek or something.
Possibly. But that was when that was when the big complaints that you couldn't hear what Tom Hardy was saying. And you definitely could, you know, I'd heard the rumours. I'd heard the sort of reviews. It's amazing, but you can't hear what he's saying. You couldn't hear what he was saying. They definitely went back. Warner Brothers went, Chris, get back in that bloody editing room and sort out the sound so you can hear what he's saying. Yeah, it's, I don't know if we're going to talk about Dark Knight Rises, but it couldn't, unfortunately, just couldn't live up to that film and obviously that opening sequence. So yes, it was certainly one of the first films shot in IMAX, but it was definitely the first film of its sort of scale, I think.
Definitely. I was saying, to build up to seeing it, what are your memories about that? How excited were you?
Well,
were you watching trailers or were you ignoring
Absolutely. them? No. They released a teaser trailer. I don't know if you remember this. It was a minute long. There was no footage from the film. It was the Batman logo, and the Batman logo was slowly cracking. And as it was cracking, you had Bruce Wayne, a VO from Bruce Wayne saying, you know, to Alfred, it's getting worse. Alfred says, I think in this minute trailer says, some people just want to watch the world better. And
I remember
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that teaser.
Yeah. And then you hear Heath's Joker for the first time go, starting from tonight, people will die. I'm a man of my word. And then bang, the sort of Batman logo explodes and the Joker's card spins out, and everything was done perfectly. And the fact that they, you know, the way that they, do you remember they were teasing Heath's Joker? They show, you know, because we didn't know that they were going to take this new, what would you say, sort of interpretation or approach at the Joker. And then they released an image that was at a black backdrop. You couldn't see his hair. It was just the face, and it was white, and he had the scarring. And I sort of didn't know what to think.
Teasing for this film was amazing. Like that, they did a thing in Chicago where they had it was sort of like a scavenger hunt, like a Joker-based scavenger hunt, and they sent people kind of all around Chicago trying to find, because Gotham, Chicago, basically, isn't it? You know, that's where it's all shot. And they had like DC Batman fans going all the way around Chicago trying to find these clues and stuff. But just to figure out this before they'd announced what the Joker looked like, and then at the end was like a Heath Ledger in full kind of gear. That's when he first got to see who the Joker was. Essentially.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Do you remember the hoo-ha about when they cast him as the Joker?
Yeah, 'cause everyone was like up in arms.
Everyone
Weren't
went
they?
mental for absolutely
It was
no
going to be,
reason.
it was going to be like Paul Bettany for ages, and I
Paul
can't think of
Bettany was
anything like weirder now. Like,
I know.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
It
It's
was
like
because, do you know what I think that was down to? I suspect, I don't know in terms of, his sort of box office impact. It certainly wasn't, it wasn't the biggest name that you could have gone for. It wasn't on paper the most exciting name you could go for. I think for me, and I remember not being, I'll admit, and I was wrong, absolutely wrong. Couldn't have been any more wrong. But I remember he didn't have a pointy nose, and that really annoyed me. That his nose wasn't pointy enough to be the Joker. Yeah, and he didn't have the sort of, the sort of pointy chin. But then I suppose, thinking about it, either did Jack Nicholson really. But like for example, Bettany has a sort of more Jokery face, so it makes sense.
What are your favourite scenes from The Dark Knight? Which ones stand out for you? Got any favourites?
Well, apart from the beginning, but of course there are several key points. But I think again, in terms of being there, being at the IMAX, you've heard the Joker's voice. You've now you've got this little peek at how Heath is going to play him through the ripping off the mask and delivering that line at the beginning. But we've still not got a bigger sense of how he's going to play him. How is he going to live within it? He does. It's just incredible. You have the crime lord sat there.
It's great.
And then it comes to, I think, that was it sort of tracking shot behind him. He walks through the sort of, the detector, the thing, and we're waiting for the famous laugh, the big Joker cackle. That's what everyone is expecting. And he just goes, ha, ha, ha. And it got such a big laugh in the cinema. No one was expecting it. What a way to play with what you're expecting. Also, it made him more menacing. That scene is a phenomenal scene. You've sort of introduced him twice. What a clever way of doing it. We'll rip off the mask, we'll have him deliver a line, then hold it back, really hold it, and then let him enter a scene like that, and he just...
I really love that there's absolutely no origin story whatsoever for the Joker. It just allows the Joker to be a thing. It doesn't explain him, doesn't kind of try to fill in the blanks for you. It completely leaves that to you. And that for me just makes it perfect.
Well, but like when he I think the first time that he ends up delivering his backstory is to one of, I can't remember the name of, sorry, you might remember the name, the guy where he cuts, I think, he kills him. And he kills him. And it's before he kills him that he says, like, do you want to know how I got these scars? So, I think we've all forgotten that because we talk about, how brilliant it is that he keeps on, coming up with these different backstories. But the first time you're watching that, you think, oh, well, there's the backstory.
Yeah.
So then when he delivers a different one, it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Again, you can't believe how brilliant it is. And of course, of course he doesn't tell the backstory. Of course he doesn't. Yes, that's so perfect. So that, there's that. I think there's every time he tells a backstory, that opening scene. But again, it's got to be the one-on-one meeting with Batman in prison. You're not like them.
When he turns the light on, he's just standing behind him.
Oh, absolutely wonderful.
Hits his head on the board. Yeah, it's great.
If you watch that again, next time you watch that, remember this. I actually didn't. I've not looked up this, if you will, goof, but I did spot it myself, which is before Batman slams his head on the desk, you can see Heath just before he does it, flinch, because he knows it's coming. You can see the actor go, oh God, here we go, and does it. Yeah, we're what's the dialogue? But
Sorry, I was just wondering how many takes of that it took for him to flinch like that. It's like, this is the 15th time now.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, that's also the scene that, that's, so not only do you have this fantastic one-on-one, the great, without a doubt, I don't think anyone could really contest it, the greatest superhero villain of all time. against absolutely one of the best superheroes of all time. We've been waiting for this. We've not had it since 1989, and they're back, and we're getting to watch it. They're talking. It's brilliant. It's what cinema's about. It's event cinema. I can't believe it. The Joker and Batman one-on-one, just talking. But it's also the scene that then sets that amazing chase where Batman then has to go and he's trying to save. I'm sure we could do spoilers on this.
Oh yeah, go for it.
You know, he thinks he's going to save Rachel.
We're all right.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he thinks he's going to save Rachel, and he ends up saving half. It's just the way that film unfolds. And I'm not actually a huge fan of action. I think you tend to grow out of it as you get older. I think what Nolan paid a lot of attention to, it's very apparent in A Dark Knight in particular, is every piece of action is really part of the story. So you were so invested, you know, that when Batman's off to try and save Rachel, you are so invested in this chase sequence, this action sequence, because of where it's going. And he never stops that. That's all. The action is there's always jeopardy at the bottom of it. So it's absolutely brilliant.
And you're right, it's a grown-up film, isn't it? You know, it's not it's not a kids movie. It's not it could be.
Yes.
You know, the original the Jack Nicholson Joker was kind of a kid's Joker. I mean, he's menacing and evil, but you know, you could I was a kid when I watched it, and I wasn't disturbed by it. I think if I was a kid and watched Heath Ledger's Joker, I'd be a little bit more disturbed.
Oh my God.
The original.
The bit where the mayor is, I don't know if I can't remember now, but if the mayor is, I think, thinks things are going to be okay, and he turns around to face out the window, and bang, a dead body smacks off the window. That bit's everyone jumped, and it's terrifying. And the imagery of the guy tied, you know, the sort of Batman wannabe tied up with the Joker talking down the camera. Really terrifying.
The brilliant time where you thought, hang on a minute, like superhero movies can be great for grown-ups. You know, this is like a bit of a comic book geek, and I've always kind of loved my superheroes and stuff. And I thought, finally, DC are going to crack this, and DC are going to make comic book movies for grown-ups. And sadly, completely wrong after this trilogy. But there we go. You know,
yes,
kind of everything.
But also, again, you know, in terms of a film that changed the direction of cinema, I think this is one of them. It's that sort of, you forget that this film had the impact it had. Films, I suppose you sort of, X-Men did it as well, to be fair. X-Men did do it, but like to take the superhero and really set it in the real world and give it that feeling that you were watching, one of a better word, a sort of serious film. It was really taking its subject matter seriously. And then that went to go, I think that sort of, it could apologize for a lot of films after it. There was a lot of films where you're going, no, could you just stop taking yourself seriously? You're not the Dark Knight. But you know, at the time it was amazing.
It was amazing. What do you think as Christian Bale as Batman? Because we've talked about Heath Ledger a lot.
Yes.
This is Heath Ledger's film pretty much. What do you make of Bale and his performance as Batman and Bruce Wayne? Because I think he's a brilliant Bruce Wayne, but he's not the greatest Batman.
Well, who do you think is the greatest Batman?
Keaton's the greatest Batman.
Keaton, yeah, definitely.
I like Affleck as well, weirdly.
I'm not a comic book, you know, I'm not into my, I nearly say comic book nerd.
That's fine.
I'm afraid that I'm not into comic books. Yeah.
Dave plays Sean. It's a shame.
But I think that Keaton is, of course, my favourite Wayne, but probably that's probably not how you're meant to play Bruce Wayne. It's such a, you know, when Michael Keaton brings Michael Keaton, doesn't he? He doesn't really know. And this isn't, you know, I absolutely adore Michael Keaton, but he brings Michael Keaton, and that's what you're getting. So he's certainly and those eyebrows. I mean, I think the best moment in any Batman film is in Batman Returns, when he's being summoned to get, you know, the Penguin's men are attacking Gotham. And then a giant bat signal turns into Wayne Manor. The bat signal lights up into his living room, goes through the window, lights up the living room. And Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne is just sat in his armchair in the dark, doing nothing. What was he doing? What was he doing? There's no telly on, there's no book. He's just sat in an armchair doing absolutely nothing. The light comes, bang, bat signal in there, and he gets up and turns round and looks at the bat signal, and it lights up his face, and he's got those eyebrows. That's a moment.
That's a moment.
Yeah, that's a fantastic moment. But so yes, Michael Keaton would be mine. But I've really grown to love Bale's version of Bruce Wayne. I really have. But I think in terms of how seriously, you know, Nolan's Batmans are pitched, I think the place to lighten it up a little bit would have been with Bruce Wayne, and I just think Bale does. I just don't think I don't want to slag off an actor as, you know, as incredible as Bale.
Yeah,
he's amazing. You know, he's of course incredible, but it's like this could be a bit lighter. That's all I thought. But and then I think Ben Affleck, I thought was great. I thought was really, really good, and such a shame that he was given those films.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I really like Ben Affleck actually, but again, I can't forgive Batman versus Superman. I'm sorry, it's just it's just one of the worst experiences of my life in the cinema.
I'm sorry to hear.
I can't get over it. I can't. I was in a really old rickety cinema in Bognor Regis, and I just came out going, "What was that? What have we just done?"
It doesn't make a lick of sense. It doesn't.
I've heard like the director's cut is better and makes a bit more sense, but yeah, I'm not going to watch it.
Fair enough.
I can't bring myself to do it.
Did you watch I assume you saw the Snyder cut of Justice League?
I haven't yet. I haven't. No, I don't have. I haven't got 4 hours to spare in my life right now.
No,
but
fair enough.
Dave has though. Dave's seen it.
I haven't got a child, so yeah, I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you satisfied?
It was a film, and I enjoyed it.
Good, great.
I mean, is that all you're gonna say?
I would love that as a review. He is a comedian, and I enjoyed him. Fine, yeah. I'll take that.
It was 4 hours. It was. I mean, it's better than what came before it, certainly, but it's still, and this is a compliment and a negative. It's a Zack Snyder film, so it's got all his pros, but it's got all his cons, and he fucking loves like slow-mo everything.
Yeah.
It could be 3 hours long if it wasn't so slow-mo. And he loves cover songs. And he just likes he does shoot perfectly pretty pictures. Like some of his stills are works of art, but he holds on them, and he's like, look how fucking good I am, lads. This is He's a bust. It's about 4 hours.
But it sort of cheated because it was in lockdown.
Yeah.
And so I was glad it was 4 hours. It's like, thank God, don't end.
And it was on Sky Cinema, or it was called I Have Now TV. I didn't have to pay extra for it.
Yes.
It was, but you know what I mean. But
no. I did a free trial week, watched Justice League, and cancelled that baby.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I was desperately trying to get myself through homeschooling and thinking, what have I done with my life?
I had the kind of same thought, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't. By the time I got to the evening, there's no chance I was watching 4 hours of Batman or Justice League. Yeah, that wasn't happening.
Sergeant and Mrs. Smith, you're going to love this house.
Is that a tub in the kitchen? There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Whatever you're into, it's on Prime. Maybe you love pop music. With Prime, you can watch documentaries about your favorite bands, stream all their albums on Amazon Music, and even order some merch in time for their next concert, all in one place. From shopping to streaming, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
This episode is brought to you by Tidy Care from Tidy Cats, a new line of cat-first litter solutions, like Tidy Care Comfort, made with smaller granules for a cat-preferred paw feel versus the leading clumping litter. And Tidy Care Alert, with color-changing crystals that help monitor the health of your cat. Designed with cats' needs in mind without sacrificing the performance you expect. New Tidy Care from Tidy Cats. Learn more at tidycats.com.
What is the most disappointed you've been by a sequel? Not the worst, disappointed.
Well, I think, okay. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I was furious. Absolutely furious, because I loved X-Men 1, I loved X-Men 2, and, you know, X-Men 3 was just... And I now can't really remember why, but I think in X-Men 2, Zinger had set up the Phoenix, hadn't he, at the end? The Phoenix is like under the ocean, and so, you know, you set up this big plot, and it just... What is Vinnie Jones doing in an X-Men film?
He's the Juggernaut, bitch.
And it was Matthew. I think Matthew Vaughn was gonna direct it, and then he
there's a few
out.
There's a directors at one point, and then it's Brett Rayner in the end.
Yes, and just absolutely horrific. I can't remember why, but I do remember wanting to walk out. I'm a big walker outer, by the way. If I'm not enjoying it, I'll just go. I'm on this planet once, you know. I don't know what am I doing. This is terrible. Why? I'm not going to wait here.
I'm completely opposite. My wife takes the mickey out of me all the time because I'll sit there going, I hate this. This is so awful. She's like, don't watch it then. I was like, I've got to now. I've started it. It might get better.
No.
Apart from Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 was no. That's the only film
Did you
I
walk
walked out
out?
of the cinema. Yeah.
He got offered a Chinese instead, and he went for that.
Yeah, my friend I was with was like, "There's an all you can eat Chinese next door. Let's just do that instead, shall we?" And then watching Tobey Maguire dancing, thought, "Yeah, go on then."
Oh man, the emo Tobey Maguire. Oh god.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with X-Men 3. I can't remember why. I can only remember how angry I was.
They made the Phoenix storyline not even the proper storyline. They pushed her to the background.
They can't make a Phoenix story, can they?
They've ruined it twice in two films.
Twice.
In the new one as well, Dark Phoenix, which actually has Phoenix in the title.
But didn't they just didn't they kill off Xavier?
Storm. They killed off Storm and Xavier. Yeah.
And it wasn't. It's so strange, isn't it? Because it was. I remember not being moved by it. It was done so badly that instead of being, you know, I mean, oh god, I could end up crying now. When in Logan, when the fake.
Don't you do it.
Oh, that I cried my eyes out. That was powerful. But I remember when the professor is dying in number 3, thinking, what the fuck is going on? It was so bad.
It was so bad.
But just and I won't go on about it because we've spoken about the Dark Knight. But I was disappointed in the Dark Knight Rises. But you couldn't. I just think he tried, you know, I think again, that thing of trying to, what we expected was the Penguin or the Riddler. Well, look, that's what they expect. So let's give them Bane. That was, in hindsight, that was just never going to work. It should have been a Penguin or a Riddler, and that Bane, it didn't work. And it's one of the films I still watch it for some reason. Because there are good aspects of it, but it sort of gets worse and worse. It's not a terrible film, but The Dark Knight was, you know, it's here. It's one of the best sequels ever.
Yeah.
And The Dark Knight Rises couldn't live up to it.
I think this leads on to the next big question is, what is your worst sequel ever?
Okay, worst sequel ever. Quite easy, this. Not technically a sequel, but it's a reboot, and it's the 2016 Ghostbusters, which is not only one of the worst sequels ever made, but I think one of the worst films ever made.
Wow, okay.
Listeners can't see Sean's face right now. He's deadly serious.
Yeah, I actually watched a bit. I watched the prologue before doing this just to remind me, even though I've actually seen, it's probably the film, I've actually seen it a few times. I put it on just to wake me up because I hate it so much. And then everything I do after watching it, I can, just my day improves. I actually recommend that everyone start their day by watching this wretched piece of shit, and you will go on to have a better day than you did. This is unacceptable. Everyone should be ashamed of themselves. And Sony should have watched that and said, we're not putting it out. I can't believe they put it out. They should have just looked at it and said, we can't.
Did you say any of this to the director when you interviewed him, Dave?
No, I said it
just after, didn't you?
What?
I've interviewed
Paul Fig or Feig or
Feig, I think.
Feig.
Yeah. I interviewed him over a simple favor, the Anna Kendrick film.
What did you? Come on. What, Dave? What did you say to that man?
I honestly, Sean, I
don't believe in trolling, right? I've been a victim of a lot of trolling in my time, but I would say to him, look, can I have a word? I just need to talk to you about a few things.
On paper, though, right? It should have worked. It should have it was the original Ghostbusters was a Saturday Night Live cast. It should have come together. There's really funny people in it, but I do agree with you. It needs to be.
Yeah.
It needs to be. Helen said this in her podcast, didn't she? It needs to be 20% funnier, and I will add in. It needs to be like 50% scarier. There's so many chances for jump scares.
It needs to be 100% better.
See, I can totally understand why you hate it, because we spoke about how much you love Ghostbusters. What points do you not like about it? I mean, apart from all of it.
Okay, well, I think, by the way, so obviously there was a lot of controversy. There was a lot taken from the fact that they made this decision to reboot it, and so it wasn't going to be a sequel. It wasn't going to be a passing of the torch, which was, as a fan, it was gutting. That's all. Okay, they're going to reboot it. All right, fine. We get to see Ghostbusters again. Fantastic. They're going to reboot it with women. Okay. Now, of course, I don't have a problem with females, playing, the Ghostbusters. But then what you're saying is we're not going to watch Peter Venkman and Ray Stantz and Winston Zeddemore and Egon Spengler. So we're not watching the Ghostbusters. You're taking the sort of concept. What? Has this ever even been done before? What the fuck is this? You're taking the sort of concept of it, and then you're going to put these new characters that we don't know and imagine that these characters are going to be Ghostbusters. Now, they've some of the characters have similarities with the original characters, but they're not the original characters. So what is this? We loved it. It wasn't. That's the thing about the Ghostbusters 1 and 2. It wasn't just the concept. It's the characters. It's not just the actors. The actors, you couldn't find the. It'd be difficult to find a more perfectly cast film than Ghostbusters. There are some actors that you just they do them, and you can't really recast them. I'd put Bill Murray in that. I would put Harrison Ford in that, and I would put Jeff Goldblum in that, and I would put Jack Nicholson in that. There are a few actors, Michael Keaton, they sort of bring themselves, and it's they're sort of playing them, and Bill Murray's one of them. I appreciate you're going to have difficulty when it comes to recasting a Venkman. It's going to be tough because sort of Bill Murray is Venkman and Venkman is Bill Murray. It's it's a mixture. So all right, you're going to change the gender, but these people aren't.
It would have been better if they hadn't even tried to do any of that at all, really.
I hated the cameos as well.
Oh yeah,
What do you want? When they show a statue of Harold Ramis. What do you want me to do with that? I'm a fan of Egon, and I'm a fan of Harold Ramis. But what do you think I'm going to do about seeing a statue of his head? Nothing. That's not I don't understand what you want me to be feeling from this.
And the cameos are really shoehorned in as well. Like we've talked about this before, Dave, about the things that I really massively hate is when sequels come back 30 years later and shoehorn in nods to the original and go, but in such an obvious way that it's just, you're like, well, yeah. And they just put them in for no reason.
It's horrible.
But it was the tone. The thing is, the tone of the film. What Ghostbusters does so well, better than any other film ever, in my opinion, is take you on this journey in such a perfect way that it's set, in 1984, New York, and very quickly you go from this, the New York as it is, as we see it, the real world reality. And we see this woman's, the library scene, her face lights up, right? There's a ghost, Ghostbusters comes in. And just very slowly, we are moved into this sci-fi world, this sort of horror film, and you just believe it and you go with it every single step of the way. It's absolutely brilliant. It is perfect. Now, if you were to watch Ghostbusters on mute, I make this point every time I talk about it. If you were to watch Ghostbusters on mute, very rarely would you have any idea you were watching a comedy. I think that is part of its genius.
Yeah.
You watch the first few minutes of this reboot, the whole film, it's played like a comedy. I can't stand that. I also can't stand actors indulging in improv. And nearly every piece of PR about this film was how fantastic it was. Everyone was improvising, and actually there's like a 12-hour version of this film. Well, I hope Sony have burnt that for a start. It's all very well improvising, and we know that they all did it on, in 1984 and again in 1989. But the story was there, the characters were there, the script was there, and they improvised around it, as they do with the thick of it. You have the script, you do the script, we do some new takes, and this time improvise, have fun. This was a mess. There is nothing holding it together, and these people try and improvise to try and make us laugh. I mean, the opening scene, I'm going to compare it to the original Ghostbusters. When you take, Walter Peck, and I forget the actor, it's terrible. I've actually got a toy figure of him in my bedroom. I forget the actor's name, escapes me. But, this is a heavyweight, seemingly, a theatre actor. This is a brilliant actor going face to face with Murray, with Venkman in that scene, and he says, you go and get a court order, and I'll sue your ass for wrongness, for being what is it? I'll sue your ass for wrongful prosecution, I think, and then he says, you can have it your way, Mr. Venkman, and it's just real. You're watching this, is not a comedy you're watching. You wouldn't know. It's, they've got these funny lines, but these funny lines are hidden under this perfectly pitched acting. You watch the reboot. He's doing this tour around this haunted house. And one of the lines, I've made a note of it. By the way, I should say at this point that once me and my friend drank a entire bottle of red wine, during the course of this prologue, we just paused it and ranted at the TV about what was wrong with it. So, but this is one of the notes that I remember, that the comedic actor Zach Woods, who's in a lot of comedy, for a start, there's your first mistake. Don't cast a comic actor for this. Get a serious actor for this bit. The Ghostbusters aren't here. The Ghostbusters are the ones that are doing comedy. So you want to be, everyone around them should feel like, they're theatre actors. They should feel, real, that they're in a drama. And then you've got these comedic actors that are responding to what's going on around them in a funny way. But he's walking around giving a tour of this house, and he says, looking at one of the ornaments in the house, and it's like a statue or a painting of someone, and Zach Woods says, this person first had the idea to enslave elephants. And you go, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's never where the comedy was coming from. It shouldn't be coming from, because then what are you making? You're just taking the concept of the Ghostbusters. That's the only bit you're doing. It would be like if you said, right, they're going to remake, I said the thick of it. They're going to remake the thick of it. Fantastic. Okay, it's in 20 years' time. Oh, brilliant. The thick of it's coming back. Well, that should be good. Yeah. For some reason, all the politicians are female. Okay, fine. That's fine. Let's do that. Oh, it's a slapstick.
Yeah.
Oh, they've made it a slapstick. That's weird. It wasn't a slapstick. Why have they changed the tone of... So I just don't know what it was for. Did he watch the original and go, oh, how are we going to recreate any of this? I just don't know what the plan was. It was an absolute mess. I think
you feel exactly about this Ghostbusters movie as I do about the Michael Bay Transformers movies. And the fact that I feel like they just ruined my childhood. Watching it is offensive.
You're not allowed, because I've been on Twitter and I've seen the sort of stick people get when they say that Ghostbusters ruined their childhood. You didn't ruin my childhood, but you ruined my day.
Yeah.
You ruined my day. I was absolutely furious. You've got to trust that the people that are making the film, and look, people care about this. People care about these things. We do. You can, you loser, you nerd, who cares? It's just a film. Well, it means a lot to me that you're meant to be, you're the guys making the films, trying to convince me that I need to go back to the cinema, that we need cinema, that we need, that we need stories in our lives. So you're telling me I should care about it. I do care about it. And the person that's made this film has had absolutely no respect for what's come before it. I could have made, I've really thought about this. I could have made a better Ghost. I will say that I'm not one of these these football fans that's standing in the crowd, shouting at the players, going, I could have scored that. I couldn't have scored that. I'm not a professional footballer. I would have made a better version of Ghostbusters if you had given me the tools. I would have done it. That was as wrong as you could get it. It was. I mean, Joel Schumacher came out and apologised for Batman and Robin. He should have come out and apologised for that. It's just terrible. Absolutely terrible.
There's this whole thing about reboots, and I don't quite get is the fact that Hollywood can't make anything original anymore because it's too much of a risk, and so they have to reboot old stuff. But actually, if they'd have thought about it and made a film that involved these 4 actors in a similar situation like this, didn't have to be Ghostbusters, could have been something else. It would have been a good film. If you take the Ghostbusters bit out of this film, some of it's funny. In places, it's funny. The acting is good in places. Some of the stuff is okay. It's passable. It's just not Ghostbusters, and that's why it's a problem.
It feels like it's shoehorned
movie. Put them in like anything else, like.
It feels like to me. I remember this was always meant to be a sequel. I thought, and then suddenly at the last minute they were like, "Oh no, it's not a sequel," because I think the original cast didn't really want to do whatever was offered to them to be their parts. And like, we're going to shoehorn this into a reimagining or a reboot or whatever word you like to do it.
Why we're letting it be a sequel? Because it was always supposed to be a sequel.
Yeah. That Harold Ramos statue, I actually thought that was like, hey, here's Igor. Or not Igor. He's completely wrong. Egon, thank you.
God, Dave.
I thought that was meant to be like a nod to like, oh, the Ghostbusters were around. And the firehouse pops up at one point. But then Bill Murray turns up and he's like playing that weird character. Then Dan Aykroyd's a cab driver.
Taxi driver, yeah.
And then Ernie Hudson's in the credits. So
he's he's the uncle that they borrow the hearse from.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can't even remember the story. I can't even remember the ending or the bad guy.
No, the story is a mess, and that's why you can't remember it. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have. It doesn't have the film sort of doesn't have a spine, and you're right. It doesn't really have a villain, and just totally bizarre. And the Chris Hemsworth character. I mean, I remember reading quite recently that Chris Hemsworth has come out and said that on the day before there was no script for him and he was going to walk away.
Wow.
I mean, what was that? I don't understand what that was about. Was that sort of like a play on, like the sexy secretary, that's normally, the way that these, in the past, the female characters have been so badly written, just these sorts of attractive secretaries. Well, why don't we do that with a male character? But Annie Potts wasn't playing Janine like that. So why are you bringing that message into this film?
Devil's advocate, do you think it brought new fans to the franchise, like younger fans? Do you think that was what was its aim?
I think it only made like 45p, didn't it? So I don't think many people
it certainly didn't get its sequels that it was planning to.
No. And do you know that Paul Feig wasted $10 million on a dance sequence that was cut out?
I've read about this weird dance sequence. It's the shots in the credits or something that was meant to happen at the end.
Well, it's meant to. I think the dance sequence was meant to happen earlier on in the film.
Yeah.
And then they just had to what do you call it? Sorry, when the audiences go and watch the film before it.
Screen testings. Yeah.
Screen testings were like that has got to go. So they just chopped it up and put sort of stills in it. I think
it was a bit strange.
What did you say to? Paul, did you mention Ghostbusters to Paul Feig at all? I didn't.
I think I must have mentioned it. I don't hate it as much as you.
I think everyone hates it as much as Sean does.
Yeah, fine.
I think it doesn't quite. And we talked about the reception to it, and that some people like it now. Some people are fans of it. It made a certain amount of money, but not enough amount of money. We talked about how much hate he gets on the internet from it. I don't really remember why.
Well, that's not. Yeah, I don't. Despite everything I've said, I don't wish that upon anyone.
Yeah, exactly. He was a very nice man, though.
I mean, no one sets out to make a shit movie. Do they? It just something happens and it just goes wrong. So
basically, Ghostbusters
to do it terribly
feels like a film that should be made. That Ghostbusters felt like a 2002 movie, like Fantastic Four or Daredevil, kind of that era. It didn't feel like
That's a good point.
A 2016 picture.
This episode is brought to you by Coca-Cola. Could your holiday use a bit more cheer? Want to bring more festivity to your family gatherings? Know someone in need of a bit more ahs? This season, adding some extra ho-ho-ho to any holiday gathering is as easy as adding ice-cold Coke to your cart. Coca-Cola. Real magic.
This episode is brought to you by L'Oreal Paris Everpure Hair Care and their Bond Repair System. If you style or color your hair, you know how damaging it can be. Why pay for overpriced bond repair products, you know the ones, when you can get the same results for a third of the price with Everpure Bond Repair? If you want smoother, stronger, softer hair, this is the dupe for you. Put this dupe to the test. Buy it now at l'orealparisusa.com/bond repair.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
What film do you think is so perfect, but you don't, and it got a sequel, but you don't think it needed it?
I brought it up, but Jurassic Park.
Boom. Yeah.
Brilliant example. It ends. It has Jurassic Park is ended. They don't need a sequel. They get off the island. They went
Everest.
Never doing this again.
You can't, and they haven't done, and they've done loads, and they never will do. I don't think this Jurassic World 3 or Jurassic Park 6. So it's just going to go nowhere near it. I don't think.
You talk about watching trailers early when you're little. The first time you saw the Jurassic Park trailer, and they showed even like the T-Rex foot in the mud, didn't they? And you're just like, what the fuck? I've never seen anything like it. And when I was like 7 when it came out, it scared the living shit out of me.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to go
Great
with
answer.
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Look at that. I have to say, Rich doesn't let me do impressions because they're so bad.
Because they're really bad, Dave. It's not that your impressions are bad. It's when you try and do people's accents and it's really embarrassing. I have one last question, and I don't ask questions very often. In fact, at all. Dave asks all the questions, and I just sit and chuckle in the background normally. I read somewhere that, so we get agents tell us that people are really big film fans all the time. And so your agent,
of course, you do.
Yeah. They're really big film fans. Sean's a really big film fan. Yeah. I was like, okay. And then doing my research, I looked up I read a story that said the reason you have a second N in your name is because you are such a big fan of American Pie that you, and Stifler in particular, you decided you were going to stick a second N on the end of your name like Seann William Scott. Is that true?
Now, we've known each other for about an hour. do you think it's true?
I don't know. I've got a feeling it is.
Is it?
It's true. American Pie is, was one of my favourite films. So at school, my favourite character was Stifler. Stifler was played by Seann William Scott. Seann William Scott has 2 N's. Bada bing, bada boom.
What is your dream sequel?
So we are really living in a dreamland in this answer, because it's Ghostbusters 3. And it's a Ghostbusters 3 that would take place in the early 90s, with Harold Ramis still being
obviously
with us, and I'm very much looking forward to Jason Reitman's new sort of Stranger Things version of whatever he's doing. Really behind that.
Well, Rich is a magician. He's like, he's magic. He can make
all the money in the world,
and a time machine.
To be a movie producer that doesn't use that money to touch people illegally. And I can make whatever sequel movie that you want to happen. And I bring people back from the dead. I can go back in time.
Brilliant.
We can make this happen.
So we're doing an early 90s Ghostbusters 3.
Lovely. And who would you like? Are you going to keep the same director? Are you going to let Ivan be at the helm of it, or?
Ivan's going to be at the helm, and what it is, I'll tell you what it is one of my, and this is related to sequels.
Wicked.
One of my favourite moments in any film, really, but in a sequel, is Die Hard with a Vengeance, which also has a fantastic opening scene. The now summer in the city montage, and then bang, explosion. Here we go. Let's go. Fantastic. You have Die Hard 1, and sequels used to be, remember, they were much more, what would you say, that sort of serial based. It was just, they sort of had nothing to do with each other. It's number 1, number 2, number 3, and 4. The only thing that sort of connected them was the characters.
Sometimes not even that, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have Die Hard 1, then we have Die Hard 2, and they don't really have anything to do with each other. And then so you're watching Die Hard 3, you think it's got nothing to do with the other two. Bang, He's Hans Gruber's brother. And you're like, what? No, I can't believe it. They tied them together. This is amazing. I absolutely, Die Hard with a Vengeance is up there with one of the best sequels. I absolutely love it. It's incredible. You've got to, what they understood at that time is that you've got to have the bad, you've got to have the good, good bad guy. You've got to have a good villain. And Jeremy Irons, they've just got, should we just go back to sort of let's try and get them to do what Alan Rickman did. Yeah, we'll make it Alan Rickman's brother. Yeah, brilliant. Jeremy Irons. Somebody had fun. Fantastic. So what I would like to do is, you've had number 1, Ghostbusters 1, you've had Ghostbusters 2, and again they're sort of not really connected. You've got Dana and stuff, but she's split up with Vecna, and obviously they get back together. But with Ghostbusters 3, I'd like you to think that that's what was happening again. Yeah. But then what it turns out is that the Gozer worshippers from number 1, that we never see, that we only hear of the Gozer worshippers. The Gozer worshippers resurrect Ivo Shandor, and Ivo Shandor is brought back. And what he can do is he can possess people, right? And what he does, where the film, the investigation that the Ghostbusters start with at the beginning of the film is people all around New York are going into comas. No one knows why they're going into comas.
Nice.
They're just going into comas. And then Egon discovers, using the Geiger meter, that the people in comas, although they're alive, they don't have their spirit. Like they've all got spirit. And what's happening is Ivo Shandor is extracting people's spirits and making ghosts out of the living, as opposed to the dead. And so they then obviously they end, they won't know this until we find out sort of halfway through the film. Oh my God, it's Ivo Shandor. Oh my God, from number 1. I can't believe this. He's back. And there we go. And what's happening is he has possessed one of the main, building firms in New York. Because if you remember in Ghostbusters 1, there's this haunted building that is basically been designed by Ivo Shandor and is the gateway to hell. Yeah. And hell will open up here. So he's now building a new gateway to hell. But the Ghostbusters don't know which building it is. And obviously it's one of the biggest cities in the world. And now they've got to go and investigate New York. And there'll be lots of times they're ending up at building sites and it's not, they destroy the building in that sort of comical way that they do. It turns out it's not the building. Then as the Ghostbusters, one of the tropes of 1 and 2 is they're always getting in trouble with the law.
Yeah.
So they, just like they do in between 1 and 2, they get their license revoked. So, but the world is going to end if they don't find what building Ivo Shandor has chosen as the gateway to hell. Then it will be the end of the world. So the Ghostbusters have to undercover find this building. They eventually find it, and we have a sort of, almost in a J.J. Abrams style, from Force Awakens lifting from A New Hope. You just sort of redo the ending to number 1. You sort of do it, but somewhere else, and it'll be some sort of twist as to where it is. I haven't, if you don't mind, I haven't got into that much detail because Sony Pictures, yes, Sony Pictures didn't give me the money to make this, so I didn't bother with all of the details. But that, to me, that would have been a very good film.
How long have you been thinking about this?
I wrote it when I was 1989. Yeah, pretty much. When I was at school, I wrote it.
I like the kind of DIY SOS-esque crossover that they've got to go around lots of building sites and try and figure out that. Yeah. I'm a fan of that. And I like them getting their license revoked, because that gives Venkman the opportunity to rile against authority again.
Exactly.
And all I could think of when you were saying it was Bill Murray going, "Yes, it's true. This man has no dick."
Yeah.
I can really see that working.
I'm guessing that all the cast are back, Slimer included, Rick Moranis.
All of the cast would be back, and I would certainly find a way, however shoehorned it would be, I would find a way for Walter Peck to come back. And maybe also Janosch, that would be great from Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. Oh, that would be really good.
Stay Puft, would you try and bring him back as well, or would you leave him
You leave Stay Puft and leave Stay Puft and just get another massive thing.
Like another,
You got the Stay Puft and the Statue of Liberty, and we'll just get another massive thing, whatever that is.
Would you change the theme tune at all? Would you leave the theme tune as it is, or would you do a Missy Elliott Fall Out Boy and ruin it?
Thank you.
Yeah.
What?
Sorry. I was just going to say that's the thing I hate the most about the 2016 one is the music.
Oh my God.
It just winds me up so much. Like it's just about to get good. Oh no, it's not.
Yeah. No. Yes, you have to stick with the original. Don't touch the song.
It's perfectly good.
It's perfect. And also, by the way, just in terms of, sorry to go back to the abomination that is the 2016 Ghostbusters, but another thing that you can tell instantly when they've got it wrong, and I actually met Jason Reitman once in LA, and I spoke to him and told him how excited I was. He was a bit freaked out by how excited I was about him doing 3. But one of my main regrets was not just giving him this bit of advice. Which was in the 2016 Ghostbusters. Do you know that Columbia Pictures have set up this production company called Ghost Corps?
No.
It's really weird. I don't get it. They say, like, Ghost Corps was meant to deal with all these sort of Ghostbuster spin-offs and stuff. So at the beginning of the film, before the film has started, it goes like Sony Pictures and then Village Roadshow or whatever it is. And then you see the ghost and the no ghost sign in this Ghost Corps logo, ident, before the film started. And you're like, that's part of the fun. That's the bit we were looking forward to, and you've blown it before the film has started. So in my version, there would be no Ghost Corps production site, and I hope for sure in the Ghostbusters Afterlife there isn't either.
I don't think so. That's one of those things when they like try and pronounce like the dark universe, like what's coming.
Yes.
Let's just make one and see if that's good.
Yes.
And then let's see if people want more that they can get excited about. But
I'm really looking forward to Afterlife because the trailer looks really good.
Yeah.
Like actually quite dark and you say like Stranger Things-esque.
Yeah.
Like I'm quite excited about it. So and if it's rubbish, I'm going to be really, really sad.
Sean, what happens if it's rubbish?
We don't talk about that.
It didn't exist. We're just going to watch 1 and 2 and go.
Don't put that on.
I just don't believe. I believe that Jason Reitman knows what it means, and I just don't think he'll. It'll be different because obviously the studio have let them do it because they've gone, look, we could do this, with Stranger Things, how that's taken off on Netflix, we can do this in a film, and they've gone, okay, go and do it. But I think it will be rooted in that reality that Ghostbusters 1 and 2 is rooted in. So, and I think you can kind of see that from what we've seen so far. I'm hoping that it'll sort of have that same thing that I said, that point of if it was on mute, you wouldn't be able to tell necessarily it was a comedy.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping.
I don't think it looks like a comedy from the trailer. Like that trailer doesn't feel comic. There are bits in it and you recognise Ghostbusters, XO1 and the suits and stuff. But it could be a kind of a horror movie trailer, the way it's shot.
Yeah.
It could be a creature movie, couldn't it? It's I'm excited.
Yes.
I don't want to be let down. You've been warned. I had to sit through Spider-Man 3. I didn't sit through Spider-Man 3, but I paid for it. Don't let me down on this.
I think they know how, from the 2016 version, how passionate the Ghostbusters fans are. I think they underestimated that a little bit previously.
So I think that, they did. I don't think they realise what they had. They absolutely underestimated it. You're right. And that's why they've gone back, haven't they? I don't know. You guys can tell me. I can't think off the top of my head where a franchise has gone, ignore that.
Yeah,
and gone back to like the franchise before. It's really strange.
Well, I think Bumblebee did that with the Bay versus Transformers, didn't it? It went, forget all that stuff, forget all the Michael Bay ones. Yeah, we're going back to the original 80s cartoon. We're following on from there.
Bumblebee's great.
Bumblebee's a good film, yeah. It's
with
a Spielberg film,
with John
isn't it?
Cena.
So, yeah, he's not in it that much though, John Cena. He's kind of a bit part, really.
It's a movie about a girl and her first car.
It's E.T., but E.T.'s a car that turns into a robot. So that was Seann Walsh's Unequal Sequels.
He's a passionate man, isn't he?
He is a passionate man. It's really nice to have people that are passionate about movies on the pod. And a lot of love for Ghostbusters. And I think he's probably going to get his wish of a Ghostbusters 3 sequel by the looks of it. So That's going to be good. I can pretend I work my dream movie producer magic and made that happen for him.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting to see what the Afterlife film is going to be like, because it's out this year and I'm very excited about it. But imagine if it disappoints him.
Oh, I wouldn't want to disappoint Seann.
It's going to break him.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to disappoint him. He got quite animated about his dislike of the movies he dislikes. So I would, if anyone's listening involved with Afterlife, don't disappoint Seann Walsh. You won't hear the end of it.
He's been a big fan for many years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of my oldest friends, somebody that I've been really good friends with since school. When I said we were going to do this Unequal Sequel podcast, said, "You've got to do Ghostbusters," and I was like, "We already have." So yeah,
synergy, isn't it?
Yeah, turns out that Seann is not alone in his love of Ghostbusters.
Great picks. I love The Dark Knight. I thought that was a great pick. I love talking about that as well.
Yeah,
all of his choices were really good
choices. We had really good time recording that.
Loved it.
What do people need to do if they want to get in touch with us, Dave?
Right, they need to check us out on Twitter. We are at Unequal Sequel. We're also on Instagram, which I am learning, and we're also called Unequal Sequel on that. And you can also contact us at unequalsequel@hotmail.com. If you would like, we will be on all the podcasting platforms. Please give us a follow, a like on the ones that you can, and just spread the word that you like and enjoy listening what we're doing, and that you like films and sequels as much.
She'll love this podcast.
She loved that. My mum loves this podcast. She gave me a glowing review after the first podcast went out, and my dad rang me and told me good job as well. So that was nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear a word from my parents, so but then I'm not sure they know what a podcast is, so it's all right.
Well, my parents are learning.
We'll know if it's good if I can convince my wife to listen, because she reckons that she hears enough of me talking anyway, so she doesn't want to listen to me on a podcast too.
That's true. I made my wife listen. She said it was good. So, I'm getting glowing references from my inner family.
That's what we like to hear. If you liked listening to Seann, you want to hear a bit more of Seann, then check out his podcast, which is called What's Upset You Now. And you can find that on lots of streaming platforms as well. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the good stuff. And also keep an eye out for Seann on tour soon. Do some comedy stuff.
He's a funny man.
He is a funny man.
Right, well, got anything else to say, or is that it for this week?
Just, if you like what the sort of stuff we're doing here, then don't forget to check out the Baywatch podcast.
Yeah. Of course, I keep forgetting about that one.
Don't forget our roots, Dave. That's where we've come from. Don't forget to check out the Baywatch podcast. You don't have to be a fan of Baywatch. I'm not. And I have watched a lot of episodes. So, but feel free to come and join us. Yeah. And listen along. It is a light-hearted look at Baywatch. There's something for the fans, but there's also lots of stuff for if you're not a complete massive fan of the show either. But yeah, join us for that, and join us again for another Unequal Sequel.
We'll be back next week. See you then. Bye.
Bye.